So I literally just flew back from Dallas, went to a 1 day intense summit on systems biology and peptides and how they affect the body. And it was intense review of biochemistry and how everything works in the body. And ultimately, I am, as a functional health coach, all about root causes. And Dr. Laval, that was the main presenter, he's coming from that same school of thought. But while I was on the way back, I realized I had my CPAP. That's what's in here. And I thought it would be a great opportunity to kind of demystify using these things, especially for you guys out there. But I want to circle it all into metabolic function, how sleep affects a lot of the root causes. And if you're doing all the right things, you're eating right, you're exercising, you're watching how many calories you're trying to move, and maybe you've been using peptides like GLP-1s, tirzepatide, and semaglutide being the big two, and liraglutide was generation one, and you're doing all those things and you're still not losing weight, I would be willing to put a lot of money on that cortisol dysregulation is probably to blame. And what are the two things that affect cortisol and how it should work in the body and when it gets going haywire? Poor sleep is one and chronic stress is the other. So I wanted to kind of circle in on sleep and help you in this video. If you stick with me, kind of make the case for maybe getting sleep apnea diagnosed if you haven't. And if you did get it diagnosed, make the case for why you should use a CPAP and kind of, like I said, demystify that. But also tie in Health Made Simple, kind of what I learned during this intense summit really boils down to making health simple. So I'm Coach Matt O'Brien. I'm the founder of Triumph Functional Training. I'm a board certified health and wellness coach. And for nearly 30 years, I've been coaching health and fitness in the real world with real clients and dealing with real struggles and real problems and real obstacles. And over that time, I've learned how to take things, complicated science, and put them into more simplified, actionable steps for my clients and myself, first and foremost, my family, my friends. And that's what it's all about. And the ultimate goal is to live a longer, healthier, and happier life. And that's kind of the premise of my book, The Magic Pill, which is behind me over there. But let's dig in. And if you're watching me live, I would love for you to let me know in the comments so I can reply to you. And happy Friday. And had a great, intense mind explosion all day yesterday. Had all my nootropics going and had my AI chat going, and I was just feeding it constantly, telling it, take this systems biology and help me to explain it and put it into actionable steps that I can deliver to my clients and my audience here. But Health Made Simple, I'm all about root causes instead of like treating symptoms. Like conventional medicine, and if you're an MD, hopefully you would agree with me, you've learned how to essentially deal with symptoms and put some medicine on it. Whereas I am more about preventive medicine. Let's deal with the root causes and fix things before they break. And then you don't need medications. And then you will feel better. You'll have more energy. And quite frankly, you're going to be happier because you have dopamine, serotonin, a lot of things that are working for you. So Health Made Simple, systems biology wrapped up into 5 components, and that's movement. If you haven't heard me talk about these before, got to move your butt, you got to lift some stuff. You have to eat real food. So that's movement, nutrition, and sleep. I mentioned stress. You got to manage your stress and control the amount of chronic stress you might be experiencing. And then our environment. Our environment is not just where we live, where we work. It's also our social environment. It's our family environment. Those all have influences on our genetic expression or epigenetics. So we all were dealt our genes. I also coincidentally was in a 3-day 2-hour per night workshop on genetics. And Kash Khan, the founder of DNA 360, is his test. And he has a whole company on DNA testing and actionable steps with that. But our DNA is basically our genetic blueprint. And our outcomes or things we experience, we can't blame our genes on, because 85% of our outcomes are really based on our lifestyle choices and those Health Made Simple components I just mentioned. So more on that. I'm going to be doing more edutainment and helping get the word out, but let's talk about systems biology just in a nutshell. Basically, it's what affects everything, all how our cells communicate, how hormones and enzymes and our biochemistry all work in this amazing machine that is us. And I don't know what your faith is, but I believe in God's perfect design. And it's just amazing the more I've studied systems biology and how everything works. But James Laval, the presenter on this summit, was really created the term metaflammation, or metabolism or metabolic health combined with inflammation is the root cause of most diseases, stroke, cancer, heart disease, Alzheimer's, diabetes, and the list goes on, and autoimmune disorders. So these are largely when things stop working properly, bad things start to happen. So that's why if we address the root causes by our lifestyle choices, hopefully we're going to prevent those downstream things from happening. So I like to say, it's in my book too, an ounce of prevention is worth more than a pound of cure. So what does that mean? It means it's way better and way more effective to prevent something bad from happening than trying to treat something bad that happens. It's usually you're just delaying the inevitable if you get to that point. But if you prevent the problem from happening in the first place, and that's why I have made it my life, my passion, my profession to be a functional health coach and help people prevent that. So I wanted to focus specifically, and I created while I was on the flight back some topics that I'm going to be presenting over the next couple of weeks and ongoing to break down the different components of systems biology and Health Made Simple. Again, those are movement, nutrition, sleep, stress, and our environment. And in the movement field, you got to move to make your mitochondria work, and you got to lift some stuff to build and protect your muscle, because that is our metabolic glucose sponge that just makes our everything else work better. So I've always been an advocate for resistance training, and that's why I say strong is young and movement is the magic pill. So that being said, I want to address the elephant in the room, which, if you don't know what this is, if you haven't seen them on top of people's carry-on bags like I had today, this is a medical device called a CPAP. So basically creates pressurized air to keep your airways open. But I want to talk about why chronic poor sleep, there's a lot of cases, like everybody's probably heard that high blood pressure is the silent killer. I would also say poor sleep or sleep apnea specifically is also a silent killer, because a lot of times it goes either undiagnosed or it's been diagnosed. And especially us guys like to say, we come up with justifications of why we don't want to use our CPAP. So I'm hoping to break through to some of you today or whenever you watch this to make the case of why it is absolutely worth the trouble and the effort to get used to using your CPAP. And if you're just adamant about not using a device that is going to push airway through your nose or your mouth, or in my case, both, I use a full face. This is my Darth Vader impression. At least my kids think that. But if you're using this and you're all the way over your nose and mouth, and I'm messing things up here, it's kind of like your Darth Vader. At least that's what I tell my kids. But a lot of people are like, oh, I thought when I was like, how am I going to go to the bathroom at night, which I usually do at least once now. But this thing pops right off, and you just keep your mask on and you clip it back on when you get back to bed. And the hose is really long. So if you're a tosser turner, which that will improve if you stop your sleep apnea, there's plenty of room to roll around on your bed. And even if you have a master super king fortress of a bed. So it's really well designed. The technology's gotten really good. And I love it because something you may not be thinking about when you have this mask and a forced airway, you can literally be under the covers, hide yourself from the world, and have that air coming in. So sometimes that is a nice feature of having it. Whereas if you didn't have it, you kind of suffocate when you go under the covers. But I have a long list of what the effects of poor sleep. I'm not going to go through all those, but relative to systems biology and metaflammation or metabolic dysfunction, sleep is so critical, not just quantity, but also quality. And a proper amount of sleep, if you want to know how much you should be getting, 7 to 9 hours is kind of the party line. But ultimately, like minimal effective dose, if you take the time to track your sleep with an Apple Watch, an Oura Ring, a Fitbit, or I have this new Hume Band on right now that I'm demoing right now, it will break down using light diode technology and gyroscopes and all kinds of tech to determine your slow wave or deep sleep and your REM sleep and your light sleep. Most of the sleep throughout the nights can be light, but you cycle through deep and REM. Both of them are important. And like I said, if you track it, minimal effective dose, you want to have at least an hour of deep sleep. That's your recovery. And you want to get an hour of REM sleep, like cumulative for the night. So like I said, you're going to go through these cycles. Usually a good uninterrupted sleep cycle is 90 minutes. But discovering that that's not happening is going to be the first step to possibly figuring out if you potentially have sleep apnea. So I always have my clients, if they're willing, to do some type of sleep tracking for 10 days. And if they don't have any kind of tracking device, a Fitbit they can get for $85 typically will do the job. And if they constantly seeing interrupted sleep cycles, then that's usually a good sign or a predictive sign of sleep apnea or some other issue going on. It could be a spouse with sleep apnea or a spouse that is snoring or children in the bed or pets in the bed. If those are constantly breaking up your sleep cycles and you're not getting those minimal effective doses, it will absolutely age you faster. It's causing that metaflammation or speeding the rate of aging by affecting your metabolic health. So if you want to live a long, healthy, functional life, if you want your metabolism to work properly, and if you're doing all the right things and you want your body and your fat burning and your metabolism to respond correctly, then sleep is the foundation. I put it at the foundation of my health model. So it's like the house lives on the foundation, that's sleep. And then we have our pillars of movement and environment and nutrition that are kind of holding up our house. And then managing our stress or the environment is kind of the roof on that house. So that's just kind of my mental model of how I remember health made simple, those 5 pillars. But I'll go into more specifics on sleep later. But I just want to make the case that if nothing else, you leave here, if you have any suspicions, like you're doing all the right things, like I said in the beginning, and either you're constantly having brain fog, you're tired, or your body weight isn't responding, or your body fat isn't responding, knowing you're doing all the right things, then I would suspect either chronic stress or poor sleep or both to some degree is creating cortisol dysregulation or cortisol imbalances where instead of your cortisol curve being normal, it's basically out of normal. So normally cortisol is higher in the morning and it slowly decreases over the rest of the day and decreases at night. And then while you're sleeping, it goes down even more. That's a normal cortisol curve. If it's upside down or it's a U curve or something is different, then metabolically your body is not going to respond to the inputs that you're trying to make of proper nutrition and training and all those things. So that makes the case for monitoring your sleep. What gets measured gets managed. So definitely, if you haven't, track your sleep. An Apple Watch will do it, and that may mean you come home and put it on the charger and then wear it while you're sleeping for 7 to 10 days. But definitely do that if you're not doing it. And then more importantly, I want to talk about obstructive sleep apnea. So as a personal vulnerability here, I'm sharing with you that I wish I had done this and listened to the advice I'm giving you 20 years ago. It would have saved me a lot of embarrassment. I would rather have my friends make fun of me for bringing a medical device along than knowing I was keeping up a room full of people because I was snoring and having obstructive airway issues, and then always waking up groggy, suffering from high blood pressure. And I know I probably decreased my cognitive function over time, but fortunately it's still working pretty good. But through the VA, I went and saw an ENT. I got referred, and he explained to me that we have 4 classes of airways. So a lot of people say, oh, if you have sleep apnea, it's only because you're overweight and your neck is really having a bunch of fat in it. Well, that's not the case. We have genetics that determine how our body is structured. And I don't remember the order. There's 4 classes, but it's like class 1 is if this was your throat, looking down it is a big open airway. Class 2, class 3, class 4, or like I said, I may have it backwards, but I know I had the smallest airway by design. So my throat relaxes a little bit at night and it starts to close and flap and do all those things. So it's not necessarily being overweight. And I know many petite women that are clients that have sleep apnea. And fortunately, most of them are treating it. But so don't just assume if you're not overweight, you don't have sleep apnea. And then getting that confirmed, and that usually involves doing a sleep study in a lab, or now they have devices they can send to your home and you do it at home, will confirm if you have sleep apnea. But if you use a cheap sleep tracking device, or if you have an Apple Watch or Whoop Band, and it's showing a lot of red lines waking up on your sleep cycles, that may be also confirming evidence. But if you're going to get a CPAP or get some kind of medical device, you're going to need to go through a doctor. The other option, if you're just adamant about not using a CPAP, is called Aspire. It's an implanted device that keeps the tonality of your muscles in your throat so your throat doesn't close. So that's something, if you're okay with implanted device that sends an electrical signal to your muscle when you're sleeping, to keep that muscle tone and keep the airway open. So that's another option. I've tried the devices where it's like a mouthpiece and it shifts your jaw forward to keep the airway open. Just be careful of the marketing. If you're watching online, they're going to make all the cases of why their device is so magical and amazing and try to discredit some of the other devices, particularly the CPAP. I know the evidence on CPAP is strong and confirmed, and personally, I know it works, keeps the airway open. But my personal experience with the jaw mouthpieces was it literally is pushing on my bottom teeth to push my jaw out. And I was saying, if I keep wearing these things, I'm going to need braces because my teeth are going to be pushed out. It's like a reverse retainer. So just something to consider. But that being said, like fixing it and allowing more oxygen to the brain and your tissues by not having that airway close off, your oxygen saturation will fall if you don't. It's just going to be life-changing in terms of cortisol regulation, blood pressure, and metabolic health in general. So hopefully that makes the case by using a CPAP, or if you don't need one, for a lot of us, it's just proper amount of sleep, the sleep environment, the quality of our sleep, cold, dark environment, no distractions. Try to get off of technology at least an hour before bedtime, and try not to eat 2 hours before bedtime. And those are just some sleep environment things that you must do or you have to do. I mean, it's a free country. You can do whatever you want. But if you want the benefits of proper sleep, that's some of my suggestions. So that being said, if you didn't hear me say before, this is a medical device approved by the FDA. So when you travel, like I just did, you get to bring that on the airline, and it doesn't count against your carry-ons or your check bags. Or I never checked this when at all possible, and had an Uber driver roll off with mine once and got it back at like 3 a.m, hounding, going through all kinds of Uber support, because this is the lifeblood. And I was thinking, God, if I have to replace this and it takes 2 weeks, my life's going to be miserable. So once you get used to it, there's that adjustment period, then you can't live without it, because you just feel so much better. Sleep quality is improved. My blood pressure is improved. All the other benefits of using it that I've already talked about I've personally experienced. So that being said, just to wrap up, health made simple. We don't have to complicate things with systems biologies. I also learned all about peptides. It was really marketed as a peptide summit, and all the GLP-1s and other category 1 peptides that are now prescribable. If you didn't hear, there's a big hearing in Congress a few weeks ago where a lot of the category 2 peptides, which were basically banned by the FDA, have been moved to category 1. So now compounding pharmacies, 503As, which are essentially certified by the FDA, that you're going to be getting what they're telling you you're getting. Those of you that might be doing the gray market and doing research peptides, that's kind of a big gamble. And I'll talk more about that when I talk about peptides. But just proceed with caution. That's all I'm going to say for now. But hopefully this was helpful. Let me know in the comments if it was. If you are interested in a comprehensive health made simple solution, and that may include some training, but nutrition is obvious, sleep, all the things that are going to that health made simple framework are things I work on as a functional health coach. I offer a free consultation. You can go to triumphfitness.com. I spell Triumph with a Y because the Y in Triumph is you. And I know if I can help you take actionable, simple steps that don't take a lot of time and don't mess up your routine that much, I know you are going to feel better. We're going to add quality and quantity of years to your life, and you're going to be a happy camper. And that's what motivates me as a functional health coach more than anything, is getting that feedback and those testimonials. So y'all have an amazing weekend. Again, I hope this was helpful. And if I can do anything or be of service, stay tuned for more information like this. I plan to do more of it and provide some hopefully useful information for everybody for your health. And remember that strong is young and movement is the magic pill. So get moving, America, and we'll see you next time. God bless, and we'll see you down the road. Take care.